The question of the day is, can God be proven? Together, we're going to listen to people who approach that question from different places. Some may reintroduce what you already believe. Others may frustrate you, challenge you, or give language to something you have been trying to understand. As each video plays, I want you to pay attention to your own response. If you want to participate, you can write down a word, a question, a disagreement, or an idea. But then I want you to use this meter on the screen to track what happened in your thinking. 1 means you had an immediate reaction. 2 means something caught your attention. 3 means the clip opened a new question. 4 means it made you reconsider part of your own perspective. 5 means it gives you something you want to research, write, discuss, or create. At the end, look back at your score and notes. You may leave with an article, idea, a journal entry, a new conversation, or a healthier way of thinking through the question. I'm going to start with this first video that inspired the conversation, and then we're going to go through a series of social media posts that are closely related to our topic today. Can God be proven?
I have a theory proving God's existence and how he created the earth using simple 6th grade math that I've learned in middle school. For starters, a lot of atheists argue that how could God create the earth in about 6 days, even though science proves that he created the earth in 10 million. Let me explain. The actual meaning of God, or at least the Christian God, he is eternal, keep that word in mind, and he's the sustainer of all things on earth. Sorry, let me rephrase that. All things in general. So that this means God created time. And while he was creating earth, he created earth before time was even a thing. Because he created time. Since God is not human, of course, and he is supernatural, a time like 10 million years can be capped into his version of 6 days. But now here is where it gets crazy, which here lies my second reason in this theory. That was the first reason. Using division, we can divide 10 million years, which is the amount of time that scientists have given that they estimate Earth was formed, or how long Earth was formed, and we divide it by 6 days, which is the number the Bible gives us. This gives us the number of 1,666,666.6 repeating. Now, this is what the number looks like mathematically. Here are the fractions, and here are some other things, like the mixed number. I did not have any reasoning that could use these numbers. If anyone else does, then please provide it, but I didn't use that. But the thing that stuck out most to me was the 6. As you can see right here, it says the 6 repeats infinitely, and the final 7 at the end is just a way of simplifying or rounding up the final digit. And it made me wonder, what does this number have specifically that stands out the most? It's the way the numbers are organized and the way they're put into this. In the Bible, each of these numbers mean a different thing. For example, number 1. This number in the Bible usually represents the absolute unity, primacy, and singularity of God. So just representing him as a whole, how he's one, there's one creator, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Now, the number 6 in the Bible, it's usually used to represent humanity, imperfection, and weakness of humanity. Now, lastly, the number 7, which is at the end. Basically, this number just means the divine perfection, completeness, and spiritual wholeness that we can get from God. That's what 7 means in the Bible. Now, if we put this number into perspective, we can see how this honestly can make a message. Number 1, starting off. So there's one whole leader. There's one leader. It's unity. He has unity, things like that, and he's supreme. And then we have 6. Remember at the beginning when I said that the 6 repeats infinitely because it's a repeating number, right? And then how 6 also represents humanity, imperfection. This can represent sin. See, the cycle of sin repeats infinitely. We'll always have the drive or sometimes the want to sin, right? And it's always in our flesh and we cannot control it. We'll always be tempted to do it. But in C here, we have God that can fill that purpose, which is the number 7. This number 7 represents, his spiritual fullness that he can bring us. And you notice how number 6 is one number or one step away from 7? This could represent how humanity and our imperfections can be full and washed away in God's presence, in God's divine perfection, if we just submit ourselves and submit our sins. We're just one step away from doing that, if we just humble ourselves. So this number alone stands out to me as a whole. The fact that it's so perfect, and the fact that it provides such an amazing message in just one number, it just doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. Last night I went on a whole tangent about this, and I fell down a rabbit hole, and I just really wanted to share this message to everyone, because I love expressing theories about the Lord. I love combining science and my knowledge about STEM into my faith, and just, of course, actually realizing and seeing, how does God blend with this, Because a lot of people do not support God because they can't find evidence to support him, and they don't find the want or need to support him because, again, there's no evidence. But I just like finding that evidence for them. It's also for my own personal belief, because, why would I follow something that doesn't have evidence? But regardless if I had this evidence or not, he has changed my life. I've seen the miracles that he's performed, not only in my life, but in other people's lives. But this is just one more detail that really shows how perfect he is, and just why I'm following this creator. I would love to hear people's thoughts. I like hearing people who disagree with me. I don't want any arguments in the comment section, but I do just want to hear people's thoughts. I like hearing things that can challenge my faith and make me question my faith, so that way I can dive deeper into it and just grow stronger in my faith as a whole. Thank you guys for listening to me. Keep in mind, I am a kid, so if I'm wrong about anything, then just tell me, please. Again, no arguments in the comment section, and thank you for your time. God bless.
When this image comes up on the screen, this is your moment to pause and think, pause the video, reflect, and maybe even participate in this assignment. If you just want to hear people's perspective and just go through it without the assignment, you can go ahead and use the summary tabs below to click on to the next section. And so this next video is pretty much the opposite. So it's setting our tone for the different types of responses we'll see. And it's a video that stood out to me because of the passion behind it, the perspective, and also because sometimes people can say things as gentle as this child who has this posture of like, I want to prove what I believe. I'm also passionate about what I do. I don't want to argue. That's hopefully the posture that we can adopt here. But it doesn't always have to come so gentle and perfect. Sometimes, because of our experiences, because of mistreatment, or the way that we communicate comes out a little bit more coarse. When you hear videos like this, or you come across content where it's a little bit more tense, this is a practice. A practice is just pause and think like, there is a tone that might be off, but there's also something to consider. And so I'm going to play this next video that stood out to me that leans into this topic in a different way.
Where y'all at? What y'all got to say?
Right here.
It just sounds good. It sounds good till it takes place. It sounds good when your president is using this same Christianity to get them good old boys in rap. It sounds good.
It's not the same Christianity.
It can't be the same Christian. I know it's not the same.
Okay.
But clearly, theirs are working way harder than the ones y'all serving. I don't know. I'm just saying. Theirs
Satan
are
is the
working way harder.
God of this earth. He's the God of this world. He's the God of this world, and this is what we're dealing with. This becomes a spiritual battle, and continuing to be like we're in such an upward to physically think we can do something about it. What happens? You kill this one, you kill that one, and then what? The demon jumps from that one to this one and this one. He's not going nowhere.
Physically think we can do something about it?
You cannot do anything.
Their people have been enjoying heaven on earth since they could remember. Their people have been enjoying heaven on earth.
If this is the heaven on earth, honey, then hey.
Their people have been enjoying heaven on earth. They don't have to die. They don't have to reincarnate. They don't have to do nothing to experience joy, love, happiness, wealth. They don't have to do nothing. But we got to pray every day. We got to endure all this pain. We got to go to him and say, beg him just to live a decent life. not with none of that. I'm ready for it. Whatever y'all on, I'm on everything y'all on too. I feel just as you feel about me, I feel about you. Know that.
So again, the primary question in this video is, can God be proven? But when you think about that question alone, it has so many different layers, because another question that can come from that is, well, which God are you referring to? And there are people who see God differently because of their experiences. And I think that's something to take notice of. As I thought about this first video, this is a reflection that came from that. And so it created this thread of like, oh, I could write about this topic fully. So again, think about these assignments as a way for you to be a creator in your own way. How can I write something? How can I create something? Does something make me very triggered, or does it free me up? Does it inspire me? Does it make me think? If it makes me angry, why do I think that is? But the other perspective of everything that we'll cover on this channel is just the idea of our belief systems and where they're formed and how we respond to them and how they integrate into our lives and into our everyday experiences. And so as I'm thinking out about the Substack that I'm putting together, and maybe you will too, I thought about this video that I came across that talks just about experiments and the experiments of placebo effects. And we've heard these before, probably, maybe some of you heard this before, but I think the way it's articulated in this video gives us texture on how we believe in general and what we could do with those beliefs. Here on the Dear Creator channel, I'm hoping that we can do something with the beliefs that is in a direction that's helping us. If you, for instance, do believe that your God is better than the next God, for example, is there any fruit from that thought? And is there any fruit from how you position that in your life? I did a recent storytelling video about what it may feel like to experience someone who truly follows their faith, and their faith has love, peace, joy, and you interact with them and that's what they believe in. And so you sincerely feel that way, versus someone who believes in division, or someone who has race as a foundation of their decision making. For those who look at surface level incidents and draw big conclusions, or those who are quick to anger, their experience with other people might be limited. But if they started to stem their thinking in a direction where, like, this could be helpful for me and other people, could we possibly achieve this goal of living life, liberty, happiness, freedom, being peaceful amongst men as much as possible? Are we working towards that intentionally? And I don't have all the answers for this, but I do want to try some things out to see if we can practice. Let's take a look at this next video that goes into beliefs in a very unique way.
There was a study back in 2001 called the sham knee surgery, which is a famous one because what they did is they invited 300 gentlemen in and they had terrible knee pain that would not get better.
I read that. I would have been very pissed if I was in that to see that.
They don't know what's coming because 2/3 of them, so they were offered a free knee surgery.
I don't even know how they got away with this, but go ahead.
I don't know how they got this. 2/3 of them did get a free knee surgery. The doctor came in at the Baylor College of Medicine, created an incision, fixed the ligaments, fixed the cartilage, and sutured them back up, leaving a scar. For the other third,
they just did a little incision.
The doctor comes in, gives them an incision, goes has a coffee, and then comes back and sutures them back up, giving them a scar but no surgery. But when they wake up from anesthesia, they have a scar, so they don't know if they got a real surgery or not. Here's what happened. At the 6-month mark, the healing effects for both groups were almost identical between the real surgery and the sham surgery. 2 years later, mobility, inflammation, pain were all improved almost at the same level between people that got a real surgery and people that believed that they had a surgery. But this is where things take a huge turn, because we've heard about placebos. This is the part that if you walk away from one thing from our conversation together, it's that we live in a world where we feel like the power of belief is on the decline. With technology and the way that the world is right now, it feels like our beliefs are dwindling in this world. But scientifically, we're actually getting the complete opposite message. So the placebo effect remain constant over time. But I was looking at depression studies, and I found that over the past 3 decades, the placebo effect, the likelihood of a fake intervention that you believe is real to have an effect upon you, rose by 7% every decade for 3 decades. Why would belief become more predictive of people's lives? So I got fascinated, and I started going deeper into the research, and I read over 100 articles and meta-analyses. And what I found is in all of these conditions, from heart disease to cancer to childhood epilepsy to depression to anxiety, we found that the placebo rate over the past 2 decades has doubled, if not tripled. What this means for you is that the power of belief is not dwindling or declining. Scientifically, the power of belief to heal us is greater now than it was 20 years ago, that the power of belief is actually ascending.
Wow. Okay. I still would have been very upset if I got the fake knee surgery. You know, I would have been, I mean, how did those people react?
And you would have been better, possibly.
Okay, so I absolutely love this video because there's so many different conclusions we can bring from it. And it completely aligns with where I want to take content here. We can grow through our content, and most of that is going to be belief systems that drive us. What I think is important about this particular video is that whatever you believe could still shift you and change you. The placebo effect. So let's say you have very strong beliefs about a group of people that you don't know or you don't interact with. You could really make that a thing in your world. But let's say you have really strong beliefs and maybe looking at the good. Would you be able to continue to find evidence of the good? And evidence is a really key word as we talk about all of these different emotions and feelings and beliefs. Because do you have evidence for anything? Which is why I like today's topic. But on the screen, I'll show you some of the lines that stand out to me. Again, when you see this screen throughout the assignment, this is an opportunity for you to respond and rate yourself on the growth meter. This next video is going to take a little bit of a turn, but I think it's important to bring it to the conversation because we're going to be talking through, hi, good morning. We're going to be talking through just how there are conversation starters that might feel uncomfortable. There are conversations that are going to maybe be out of your comfort zone sometimes. And I want you to have evidence of those type of videos and those type of stories so you know what you're getting into when you're coming through these assignments. It's going to be a plethora of different perspective, ideas, approaches to how to respond. The language they use might be a little bit uncomfortable, but we've had a lot of conversations or a lot of forming where we say, oh, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about religion or politics. We can't talk about faith or the big life questions. Why? If you're someone who's deeply interested in listening to other people and their perspective or having great conversations or bringing those conversations or writing and doing something about those conversations, even if they might be a little heavy, I'm hoping that that heaviness will transfer to a happiness. We know that you can pick up weight at the rate that works best for you, but it can strengthen your muscle. It can help with your form and how you respond in your life. Just know that the goal is for you to achieve life, liberty, and happiness in your mind. And that could be simply a placebo effect. Let's take a look at this next video. It'll go through what happens when you listen to some of these pieces of content, how it might shift, and what we can do with that shift in your thinking.
Anyone else too aware? I'm too aware this is all part of the human experience and that nothing matters and everything is made up. The days of the week, that's made up. Humans made everything up, money. It's just made up. Does anyone else know what I'm saying, or am I just crazy?
You're not crazy to realize that all of society is basically a social construct. In fact, somebody like me would say you haven't gone far enough. Because if you think about it a little bit more, you are at the end of an unbroken chain that goes back billions of years to one common ancestor which we share with all living things on this planet. Over time, we evolved to be creatures that have culture and make shit up and come up with philosophy because we think too much. And our thoughts are special to us, but really all that's happening is the neurons inside of your brain are communicating with each other using electrochemical signals. And if you think about what the neurons are actually made of, they're just made of atoms, protons, electrons, and neutrons. And the protons, neutrons, and electrons in your brain and in the rest of your body can be traced back to processes that happened shortly after the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. This is a cold, hard fact. The protons inside of your head right now have been around since damn near the beginning of the universe. What's more is that in a few billion years, as the sun ages, it will expand into a red giant. It will expand so much that it'll probably vaporize the Earth. And in a few billion more years, all of the atoms that are on the Earth will eventually mix back in with the rest of the Milky Way galaxy, eventually leading to the formation of new stars and new planets, perhaps that have life on them. Which means that the protons, neutrons, and electrons that are currently responsible for the thoughts that are happening inside of your brain have not only existed since the universe started, but in billions and billions of years, it's quite possible that those protons, neutrons, and electrons will be in another life form, some other future living thing. It's even possible that they will end up in the brain of that creature, also being responsible for those future nihilistic and existential thoughts. So even when you see through the societal matrix, realize that it's just matrices all the way down for all of it, the whole universe. Cheers.
Again, here's the signal, the option to be free with your thoughts. You'll see this come up on the screen throughout. And let us know in the comments if there were a match with any of the thoughts. Again, the question is, can you prove God exists? So we went through belief systems. We went through the social construct. And so when you even join this video, you might even start with, like, how can you prove, or which God are you speaking of? The remaining of these videos will be people just reflecting, or people having an answer for one way or the other. Again, pause. It'll be a lot of content. And reflect. Even if you don't write anything out, maybe even try the meter to see what your score is at the end. Let's take a look.
He said you can't prove religion, but Cliff is going to provide evidence. Let's watch this.
You can't prove religion. You can't prove it. Prove it to me that Jesus existed. Prove to me that these...
Sure, no problem. I'll prove to you Jesus if you first of all prove to me Napoleon. I'll prove to you Jesus if you first prove to me George Washington. I'll prove to you Jesus if you first prove to me George Washington Carver.
Don't prove the person's existence. I'm saying prove the ideas that the person talks about. Prove to me what there's a heaven that's up there. Prove to me that there's, this truth, that your God truly exists. Prove to me that these precepts of the Bible are truly what's true revelation. Prove to me that these things are actually there. I'm an empiricist. Prove to me that they're there.
All right, I'll do that. If, first of all, you prove to me that your taste buds are telling you the truth when they tell you you're drinking sour milk.
Secondary rational, some things you can't prove, so then you fall upon
some things you can't prove. Sir, I'm sorry, I haven't communicated clearly. Sir, you can't prove a thing. To prove means to show it cannot be another way. You cannot prove a thing in life. You as a thinking human being don't base your life on proof. You base your life on evidence. What does the evidence point to? And you follow the evidence. To prove means to show. It cannot be another way. What can you prove in life? Prove to me we're having this conversation right now. You can't prove it. We might be dreaming. But the evidence is we're having this conversation. So the evidence is God exists. The evidence is the order and the design of the cosmos point to an intelligent mind. Moral absolutes point to some moral giver, lawgiver. Life comes from life. All of my experience shows me life comes from life. Never once have I seen life come from non-life. Fourth piece of evidence, free will. If there is no God, you're just a hunk of biochemical reactions. That's all I am. You're not free. You're determined by your biochemical reactions. Well, if I'm free, it means there's more to me than just my biochemical makeup. There's a soul, a personality, an I that goes beyond the biochemical. I have a free will. Well, the free will can only exist if there's some type of God who creates me biochemically, but also gives me a will that's not totally dependent upon my biochemical reactions. That's why I believe God exists. Now, why do I believe Jesus is reliable? Because the historical evidence of the way he lived, what he taught, how he died, how he rose from the dead, points to his credibility. If you live like Jesus lived, if you teach what he taught, if you died the way he died, loving and forgiving your enemies, and if 3 days later you rise from the dead, sir, I will listen very closely to everything you have to say, because the evidence is you're trustworthy.
Let's talk about it in the comment section. This message is very helpful, and I pray it has blessed you today as it has blessed me. May peace, joy, and grace be on you always.
So one of the things that I think are important about this last section is we're using language to make meaning of the things that we might not be able to properly understand. And the thing that we couple with that would be our experiences. And so someone's belief or disbelief could be the lack of experience with what you name as God or what you name as a spiritual experience. And I think that was one of the takeaways of going through all of these videos, is that everyone's experiences are shaped so differently, but it's also how people determine what they stand for, what is meaningful to them. And all of these are a collective of our earth experiences. So really quickly, I want to just plug in anyone who's really into these conversations, the Earth Experience podcast, where I get a chance to talk to creators of all types about the beliefs that inspire their work. And sometimes that could be just talking about faith, or it could be a story that they wrote, a book that they wrote, or it could be a concept like financial well-being. Take a look at that podcast if it's interesting to you, but also an invitation for this Dear Creator segment where we can improv. On the podcast, I often have these sections or these sessions where we improv with content like we're doing today. And if you would like to be a guest on Dear Creator, where you can go through these type of contents and we can have an improv experience, go ahead and click on that form in the description box below. Let's go ahead and take a look at this next video.
If God proved to you that it was real, would you then believe?
Yes, I would believe. That's the simplest yes I could ever give. I wouldn't be an atheist anymore. But would I worship? Would I become a Christian? No. And I think that's the thing that Christians don't really understand. I've heard so many Christians say, well, if God were to reveal himself to you, then that takes away your free will. No, it doesn't. I still have a choice in the matter, and I would choose not to worship that God. If that God truly exists, exactly how he is characterized in the Bible, that is not a God that is worthy of worship. That God commanded that his people commit genocide multiple times because the land is promised to him. That God cared more about showing off to the Egyptians and hardening the Pharaoh's heart than freeing his people who were enslaved. That God needs a blood sacrifice in order to forgive you of your sins that he himself created, because he apparently created everything. Someone or something has to die in order for that God to forgive you of something. That is not a God worthy of worship. And that's just what's in the book. We haven't even scratched the surface of what he allows to happen in this world today. Rape, murder, war, disease, poverty, all of that. Christians claim that this God allows all of these things to happen because of free will. So this God cares more about the free will of the offender than the victims themselves. And then apparently that same God wants the victims to forgive the person who literally used their free will to rape them. And the victims are the ones in the wrong for not forgiving, because God says in the Bible that you have to forgive no matter what. That's not a God worthy of worship. And also, according to Christians, that same God will take time out of his busy schedule to strike down someone like me for making a video like this, because he cares more about people talking shit about him than his victims being raped in their own church. Not a God worthy of worship. So yes, if this God came to me one day and was like, hello, Serafina, I totally exist, I would believe. But would I worship? Absolutely fucking not.
So as you go through the quotes that stand out to you or trigger you, I'm imagining that there might be different types of believers that interact with these videos I'm sharing. Some may be devout Christians, some may be deconstructing, some may just be interested in deep conversation. You can take a lane of listening to the content and figuring out what triggers you or what inspires you, and writing and thinking through your beliefs as well. So for an example, if this was a type of video that impacted a Christian and they said, oh, something is wrong with this person, there's a lot of different views we can take from it, right? Sometimes there's more story to tell. There is a history of things. And sometimes people are forming ideas that make sense to them. And so if you put in quotes what someone has said that stands out to you, doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree or disagree. If you get anything from this experience or this assignment, you're not looking for the videos you agree with the most, and you're not looking for the videos that you disagree with and are angry about and checking that based off of your meter. Your meter is about, is there more perspective that you can bring? Are there questions? Did they make you think about something new? I just want to make that disclaimer because you will hear different perspectives on both sides that might irritate you. Even in delivery, it might not be the delivery of your choice. But again, we have the free will not only to do whatever we want, but we also have the free will to make choices, to listen better, to care for others, to see different perspective, to get closer in conversation, to learn about ourselves. We have that free will as well to exercise. Let's keep watching.
Have y'all ever heard of the theory of general relativity? It's what Einstein is famous for. In his calculations, he started to realize that the universe was not eternal. It had a beginning. Now this leads us to the law of causality. Everything that came to be needs a cause. So Einstein clearly knew that if the universe had a beginning, it needed a cause. Let's go to the Big Bang Theory. There was no space, no time, and no matter before the Big Bang. The universe emerged out of nothingness. What does that mean? Since it's impossible for the universe to be able to create itself because it didn't exist in order to be able to create itself, nature and the universe itself was just a big effect that was caused by, what are we left with? An extremely powerful, extremely intelligent, precise, given the precision that our universe was created with, personal entity that is capable of existing outside of time, space, and matter. That can't be nothing but God. And for people that are like, okay, well, how do you know that it's like Christianity's God? There's only one God. But there's a very famous astronomer named Robert Jastrow. His credentials as a scientist are impeccable. Being agnostic, he's not even a Christian. He said that all of the essential elements of the Big Bang Theory line up with biblical creation. Because this is how God works. God speaks something and then science runs to catch up with what he said. Science doesn't create anything. Science studies creation. Let me just answer a question that I always get. Who created God? What'd I say? I said everything with a beginning. Everything that came to be needs a cause. God didn't come to be. God is eternal, the way a lot of people thought the universe was until science disproved it. So God doesn't need a cause or a creator. He is the cause. The universe is the effect. Don't just take my word for it. Go look into it for yourself. One more thing. Evidence is not a substitute for faith. Following God is not a matter of evidence or proof. It's a matter of the will. You have to want to do it so you can have the peace that you're looking for. And if you don't want to make that choice, no amount of evidence is going to convince you to. You have to want to.
This is a really interesting take, and I want to pause here for you all to pause, but also talk a little bit through this. When you think about some of the videos we watched before and we pair them with some of the messaging we're seeing throughout this video, a lot of this has to do with some questions that you may want to answer yourself depending on where you sit on the spectrum. So let's say you are someone who is against God or don't believe in God. The question is, what is the understanding behind that? Is it because of the God that you learned and how they deal with them? And if you're someone who truly believes in God, why? Why do you believe in God? Sometimes those whys could lead to a story or a perspective that helps another person. Sometimes it might lead to, I just did it because everyone else did it, and you might not sincerely believe. But then again, when you think about any of the things that you choose to believe in, it's still a choice. Going back to that placebo video, it really could be that you want to choose to be healed, that everything could be a social construct. So you might be sitting with, well, why am I spending so much time being angry at a belief system? What do I want to believe in? What would move me in this life? What would be impactful or inspiring? How would I want to change the world of people that I saw was hurt in a particular way? Because those things, when I read about it, they move me. And so therefore I should move with that movement. And that's what the creation part of this channel is about. What do you want to create? Because we might stay stagnant and we might see a lot of division. We might go back and forth on proving that our way is right, whether that is about a left or a right, or a God existing or not existing, whether or not that's about vegan or not eating meat. Like if you look and pause at the world, we're doing this in so many different ways. And the thing that stands out to me is when we want to push everything on everyone else. Whatever we choose to live by, if the fruit is there, will people gather around because there's something about the fruit that's produced with whatever belief you have? Think about that placebo video one more time. If the fruit is your healing, and someone had to manipulate you into that healing, would that make a difference? Or would it be the fact that you healed? That's a tricky question, because if you could see, the response was, I would be upset if I was one of the people who had the placebo, but you also got the healing. And so, I don't know. I'm probably giving too much to chew on, but if you're here with me and you like this type of content, go ahead and click that like button. Let's take a look at the next video.
What's the proof that God didn't exist? So actually there's a ton of proof that God isn't real. First and foremost, I feel it in my heart that there is no God. I have faith that God doesn't exist. I mean, look around you. Look at the trees. Clearly there is no God. For something to exist, it has to come from something, and I've been told by Christians that God didn't come from anything and therefore cannot exist. And if God did exist, why would there be suffering? If God did exist, where is he? Some other evidence that God doesn't exist is the Bible. The Bible pretty much proves that there is no God. Way too many contradictions about his nature. God is love, love isn't jealous, God is a jealous God. How does that make sense? I've also never personally experienced God. I've prayed to him and had no answer. That is proof that there is no God. Furthermore, the Bible says, seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive. I sought and didn't find, and I asked and I didn't receive. What more proof could you possibly need? The proof is all around you. Just look at the stars. Not to mention, the universe is so clearly unintelligently designed. Surely an all-powerful, all-knowing God couldn't be that incompetent. For those of you still not getting it, because every time I post a video like this, for some reason a bunch of you are very confused still, I'm using the arguments to prove God to disprove God. Because you can't prove the non-existence of something. How would you have proof if it doesn't exist? How about this? You disprove every single other God claim, and I'll use the method that you use to disprove all of those to disprove yours. Hope that helps.
Guys, I'm atheist, but I'm not so sure. I'm still thinking that there is something that created us. If you give me good proof, I will start believing in God. Okay, well, I can't give you proof, but I'll give you an analogy through a skit. I mean, God's not real, man. I mean, there's just no proof. I don't think you can convince me. What is that, a granola bar? What do you mean? That's a granola bar, right? Well, who made that? Who made that granola bar? Chewy? Why, dude? Well, how do you know the company Chewy made it? Because it says so right here. Bro, you're not making any sense or any valid point. Okay, I know it says it right there, but did you meet the person who made it? Did you actually physically see them make it? Do you have proof that somebody made that? I don't need proof. I know it came from a company. You have no proof, though. You have no proof that that specific granola bar has a creator. The only reason you believe is because you received it, because you went to the store and got it, but you never actually saw anyone create it. Bro, the guy can call me. The guy can write a letter to me proving that he made it. Oh, okay. Well, does that sound familiar? What does the Bible have to do with anything? I was saying that that guy could write me a letter as evidence to prove that he made it. So you do have faith, but in the world and not in God.
Here's that screen again. Sometimes when I go through how people are trying to prove their case, sometimes there is a level of passion that I might misunderstand. And that is, if people don't want to believe, are we trying to make them believe? If people want to believe, are we showing evidence of why it's so important to believe? Or are we more stuck on the fact that we have so many cases or so many different stories and analogies to help us prove our case. I'm imagining that if anything is good out of believing anything, it should be useful, it should be helpful, or at the very least, it should just be true. But truth is so relative, right? Like, what is truth is one of those life questions. Let's take a look at this next video.
Anytime a religious person, usually a Christian, hears somebody say that they don't believe in religion or they don't believe in the idea of this God of the Bible, they always go to this line. Well, you can't see the wind, but you believe in the wind, so it's the same with God. And this is what y'all fail to realize, because I done talked about this before and showed this, the homie Sean Towers. I already played for the team you playing for. And when I was playing, we ran the same exact plays that y'all running today. It don't change. That was my go-to line. Oh, you don't believe in the wind? This is what y'all fail to understand. So say the news says it's 200-mile-an-hour winds outside. So you go outside and the doors swing open. Your hat go flying off. You blown back like this. You see the trees blowing. You can feel the wind on you. That is physical proof of the wind. It's physical proof. Now, switch it over to this God thing. They telling you it's fact of this man in the sky. And all you got to do is pray and believe. And God will guide you and protect you. So you telling that to this child that's going to church and praying. And that child goes to bed that night and this adult creeps into the room to do some unthinkable things to this child. And the child is praying and nothing happens. That right there debunks this whole God idea. Like, where is God at? Now, when this kid is praying to God and the person is trying to violate this child swings back and get lifted 10 feet in the air and starts swinging around, now we can believe in this God thing. So you can't compare the two. We can have actual proof of the wind. But if you're telling black people in these black neighborhoods that all you got to do is believe in Jesus and it shows that God is going to guide you, and now you looking around and your neighborhood is tore the hell up and your people ain't benefiting from this shit, yet the oppressor is getting all the benefits. There's nothing wrong with questioning this God thing. God damn it, I should see the same proof in God as I see in the wind. So that whole wind comparison, I have proof of wind. I have no proof of this man in the sky that's going to protect me, because he ain't doing it.
One thing that was very interesting, and as I started to start the podcast, and it was stemmed from my own journey with belief system, is that there's so many great stories, and I love the stories that we can tell. But I had to make an input here that my belief systems here are really built on us looking for the good, looking for evidence of the good. It's also built on having resources that can support us, making meaningful experience in this life, sustainability with content creation. And that might sound very, very deep. There's so many things that are changing in the world, and you'll see in the videos that we're thinking about the concept of creating things. Maybe that's writing an assignment. So there's no box that will be fit here. I'll have both the deep conversation and the conversation about resources that will teach us and support us as we live this earth experience. And so as you walk through this journey with me, if you have made it this far in this video, you might like it here. But as you walk through this journey with me, it's about growth. I enjoy growth. When I look at planting seeds like cucumbers and how they grow, I enjoy it. And so I find a passion in watching the fact that something can grow and that it can continue to grow even though you're taken from it. It is not depleting you. And so somehow in this life, I want to experience that, or I at least want to try. And I'm inviting people to think in that same vein with me by creating and thinking more in a direction that could be helpful for us. And when I talk about resources, I will be using my garden systems. I like this garden system, but it's also an opportunity if you want to grow with me as I grow inside. That's growing inside is why I chose gardening to be a partner, because you have this resource and this tool where you might not have the green thumb, but you can still get something from this tool inside of your home. We've been eating cucumbers and green beans and peppers and collards and adding basil and wheatgrass into our juices because of this system. Sometimes growing outside might not be effective. The environment, the weather, just your skill level might hinder you. So if you're interested in growing with me as I go through these content, as I explore different content ideas about what to do with these resources, consider your own garden system. I'll put a link in the description below, but on the screen is a QR code if you want to get $100 off on your system. Okay, so let's take a look at this next video.
Prove to me God exists without turning to the Bible for facts. All right. So if you're a devout Christian like me, there is a chance that you've been asked a question like this. So here's my best attempt at answering it using 4 points. But before I list those 4 points, it is important to know that you cannot prove nor disprove anything in life. So I cannot prove to you that God exists. But what we can do is provide evidence for God's existence, as evidence is what is used to build our arguments and draw our conclusions to support our beliefs. So without further ado, here are 4 pieces of evidence that prove God's existence without using the Bible. Point number 1. All creation is evidence of a creator with an intelligent mind. For example, whenever you see a house, you see evidence of a builder. And whenever you see the words on a book, you see evidence of an author, as a house cannot build itself and a book cannot write itself. And none of that happens by chance or by accident as a result of chaos, as it takes some sort of intelligent mind to create those things with order and design. And this applies to our universe too. The order and design of the cosmos is evidence of some sort of intelligent mind, and it points to the fact that there is a God who is responsible for the creation of our universe. Point number 2. Everything with a beginning has a cause. The Big Bang Theory suggests that our universe has a beginning, but however, something cannot come from nothing. So because the universe has a beginning, it also has a cause. Things don't happen because they just do. It's intellectually dishonest to claim something like that. As like I said, it has to have a cause if it has a beginning. And there are no infinite number of causes that go back in time. So there has to be an original uncaused cause when it comes to the creation of our universe. And the best example of an uncaused cause is God. Well, if God created everything, then who created God? Well, God is eternal, so he does not have a beginning or a cause, so he couldn't have been created. Anyways, point number 3. Life comes from life. You cannot get life from inanimate objects. For example, the cell theory states that cells are the basic unit of life and that all organisms are comprised of cells, and cells come from pre-existing cells. So if cells come from pre-existing cells and cells are the basic unit of life, then that points to the evidence that life comes from life. It does not come from non-life, as a non-living thing cannot give birth to a living thing. And the fact that life comes from life points to the fact that God is the ultimate source of life, as he is the one who gives us life. My 4th and final piece of evidence is that the universe is finely tuned to sustain life. If the constants of nature were different, then life as we know it could not exist. So factors like gravity and electromagnetism are finely tuned to meet the needs for life to exist. And this is highly unlikely to happen by chance, so it points to the evidence of a designer who knows which conditions are just right and best for us in order for life to emerge. So those are the 4 pieces of evidence I have for the existence of God that do not come from the Bible. However, the purpose of believing in God is not about how much proof or evidence you have of him. It's about how much faith and trust you put in him. God loves you. God created you perfectly in his image, and you have a purpose for your life. And matter of fact, that's another piece of evidence for God's existence. So hopefully I clarified all of this well enough for you guys. In the meantime, y'all have a blessed day.
As we go through these videos, again, the option to pause is here. I want these moments to be an option to seek and search for answers and evidence that actually benefit you as you navigate this earth experience. And you can also look for evidence that make it worse. And I'm pretty sure everyone doesn't have easy days, and there are cases where it doesn't feel like having a belief system will even matter, especially because the world doesn't know how to operate in kindness. It's like a lost art. But what would you like to do? Like, what do you want out of this experience? Is there any benefit in reviewing what your beliefs are? And it doesn't have to be attached to a religion, just your everyday life. Do you believe that everything is going wrong? And so it gives you an option to see everything is going wrong? When we're listening to this creator's video, the things that stick out to me are here on the screen. But I want to just pause where he says, even though you go through all this evidence, it really takes you. And then when you think about that belief, it's like, what do you want to do with your energy? Are you so convicted one way or the other? What makes it that way? Let's take a look at this next video.
It explains the science around the natural spiritual system of creation. So then you understand like more of a logical point of view and scientific point of view of what God is. But without metaphysics, how can you even, without metaphysics, you can believe in God.
Yeah.
But your perception of God is limited because you're going just off of faith and written word and accounts from other people's stories and encounters with God, which is great.
Yeah.
That is absolutely valid and should be part of your faith walk. But if you don't have the more scientific side of explaining how and why and what God is, how it's interacting with your experience in life and with the things in the world in the physical realm,
Right.
then like you're really just believing in one side of God, you know, like you're not even able to see the full picture.
Right.
I just think that it'd be harder to do that. It's like you really, of course, you really have to walk by faith by then, because then you're just literally basing your entire faith off of your own experiences and what other people said their experiences were. But if you can't see, like, metaphysics helps you see God happening right now. Like, I know that this table's vibrating, and I know that there's a fractal in there that matches the same sacred geometry structure as something over there that's completely different, or a thing in the tree. Or I can see how, like, the back of a turtle looks the same as the shell over here.
Yeah.
And then I can see how the evolution of those things turns into other things that match directly with the stars and the constellations interpretation of how we're supposed to be living our life, or what's supposed to happen in the world, and then it does.
Right.
And then those things that happen like connect to something else. So it's like you can literally see God happening right now in biological ecosystem, natural world science. That to me is like the cream of the crop. Then you have both. You have physical, real accounts of people's experience to show you that God exists, and then you have scientific patterning, relational, material, physical, scientific results. And then you're like, okay, now I know there's nobody can nobody can argue me. God exists. Period. You know.
I love it.
One thing that stood out to me as I was studying my belief systems and really investigating what I believed in was the idea of not knowing, the unknown. Why it feels like there's a select group of people who have come to the conclusion and are able to communicate it so effectively. Why is there then a group of people who believe so wholeheartedly and preach their truth and then turned away and shifted to another? What causes that shift? Through all of this, you might find yourself thinking, what is truth? Because everyone is trying to find truth. And because it's been so different and takes so many different forms, how do we know that everyone's truth, based on what they decide, is a truth for them? And then it goes back to, what makes it so difficult to decide on one truth, one understanding? Is there some type of reason it's structured and formed this way? And that's where you land in all these other worlds where people have said it's a simulation, it's like the Truman Show. But even with all of these different options and all these different ways of thinking about belief and existence, I would love to make the best of it. Like, what can I do to make the best of it. Because if I am going to spend my time here not knowing, I definitely don't want to spend it angry or arguing or being divisive willingly with anyone. Let's take a look at this next video.
God does not exist. Before you curse me out, hear me out. Because God is omniscient and not in any form of existence, both nothing and all, to define it by any name is to attempt to bring into form that which cannot be expressed. Something that is omniscient, omnipotent, everywhere and nowhere at one time, is not finite in existence and therefore is undefined by the field. You cannot assign word from the material world to that which exists in the eternal realm. Word is only heard in the world, but the language of the eternal realm has no sound and cannot be heard. Names in the eternal realm cannot be heard on earth because they were not assigned to us here. These two fields work within two different laws of interaction. By these rules, we know that it is impossible for God to have a name here on earth.
One thing I do love about content creation and listening to stories is how creative we are. How creative we are with finding meaning, for researching and studying and putting things together to help us make sense of this world. And it's so beautiful how it's done. Sometimes it is messy and destructive, and although I try to steer away from it, there's always something that comes from it that helps inspire me. So we're going through a lot of different content, and depending on where you sit, some of it might trigger you. Especially when we get to some of those hard to speak about subjects or uncomfortable. But as I was having a conversation with a stranger one day, who actually ends up becoming a friend, I've learned that when something is new, because we haven't used that muscle, okay, hi, how are you? We can feel uncomfortable. And that's all it is. It's just a little bit of discomfort. But once we start using that muscle, and we start seeing what comes from it, we'll get used to the new. Or maybe it's always what already existed.
If God's real and I ever stand before him, these are the questions that I'd have. Why did you remain hidden? Why the silence? Why make faith the requirement instead of making your existence just plain to everyone? If you want a relationship with us, why make your existence debatable at all? Why reveal yourself through a book that requires so much interpretation and translation and disagreement throughout the centuries? Why allow thousands of religions to claim they actually represent you and then ask us to choose the right one? Why let where we were born shape what we believe about you? Or if we believe in you at all? If eternal destiny is really at stake, why make the evidence so uncertain? Why let sincere people who sincerely search for you still come up empty? What are we supposed to conclude from that? If knowing you matters more than anything else in all of creation and existence, why make knowing you this hard?
Okay, very good questions. What are some of the questions that you might think through? Here's your opportunity to pause. And I'll put my quotes on the screen here. As I think through this video, I sit in this space of it's okay to question. Sometimes people say there's dumb questions or you shouldn't question this. It's really so okay to question. Because where does it lead you? If you have the question in the first place, then you want to understand something. When you decide not to understand, there's no intentionality. I was watching this movie and it was about racism. And there was a bus boycott. And during the bus boycott, There's a woman, she knows her maid to be someone she depends on to help with her children, and she needs her maid. She's also in this community and in this society where a belief system has grown that she also grew up in. It wasn't until she was exposed to something different. She went to a different environment, to a different area, and she saw people treating the people differently. And although it didn't transform her life that day, it seemed to stay with her so much that when it was time to stand for what was right and not for what everyone else is doing, she was able to be brave enough. And all that really took was some exposure and some evidence of something else. And although we might talk about deconstructing these ideas like racism or deconstructing our relationship with money, deconstructing a lot of different ideas and beliefs and not just focus on faith, but like really our beliefs about life, liberty, and happiness and how we can achieve it. Think about stories and experiences you can create for yourself. Exposure to the thoughts that make you uncomfortable. If you grew up thinking one way, one of the bravest things you can do is to consider something outside of what you always been told or what you think always is true. When we think about science and how science will say one day this is what it is, we all believe it until later on new evidence exposes that, oh, that was wrong. That could happen in our everyday life. And even if you feel very confident and sure about your belief, you can become even more strengthened in that belief if you study it mindfully and seek it out with truth. Maybe there's just another angle that you could use because you do have enough care to study another perspective. And then sometimes you can challenge yourself to say, is this perspective or this belief system that I've been carrying about hating another person for the color of their skin? Is this belief system about thinking that my race is belittled and I am less than? Is any of these beliefs about I'll never be good enough? No one likes me. I'm not good at math. Are any of those beliefs really serving you? Whatever it is that you want to accomplish, whatever you want to create in this life, try it. It's not even necessary that you're going to be good at it. It's not necessary that you're going to say, I want to do this, and then all the things are going to work out. But my theory, and it's just a theory, just like we started out with the child in the beginning, it's just something that you might consider in this day. Before I close out, I just want anyone who made it this far to click on the like button, consider subscribing. The videos will not fit in a box. Sometimes it's just what's on my mind. It might be following a trend that I might want to offer a different perspective to. And other days it's just getting creative and finding a project or looking for the different places that we can explore. It seems like it's a lot, and sometimes it feels like it's limited. So even in the everyday life, just making the most of the stories that we can cultivate and share with one another. Here's the last video. It's a little bit of a comedic video, and for those who might be able to relate, they could relate. But although I'm a deep thinker, I feel like I'm funny sometimes, and I love to bring that into our spaces, so it won't be heavy all the time. And there's always room for laughter. I do truly believe that laughter is a medicine, and I feel like it's been working in my life. What do you believe about laughter? Until next time, hold on to you as much as you can. Hold on to your health, your well-being, and your mind. Be mindful.
And I be telling y'all that's how God work. That's how he work. But y'all don't listen.
See, that's why I don't be.
That's why you don't what? Go on, say it. I'm just saying, I don't even think, man, at this point, I don't even know if God real or not. Cause what you just say? You don't know if he real. Is that what you just said? No, I'm saying okay. Like, I mean, I just be having my own little questions, but it ain't nothing. You got your own questions? From what? I mean, I'm just saying, if God is love and God is real, why all this bad stuff be happening in the world? Like, oh, no. See, who y'all come with that? So what YouTube video you get that from? Huh? What video you get that from? What conspiracy theory? Where you get that from? See, you watch that stuff and you let that sink into your spirit. You stay up late. I told you stay up, you watch that stuff, and it get in your mind. See, you ain't even let me get a word out. You ain't even let me finish what I... Okay, so you don't believe in him no more. That's what it is. You don't believe in God. You don't believe in God no more. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? So go on and say it. You don't believe no more. No, I ain't saying I don't believe in him. Like, I'm just saying I got questions about how he operate, because in my mind... Your mind is warped. Your mind warped. You don't got no mind. See, the devil done took it. It's gone. Bye-bye, birdie. Bye-bye, birdie.